In 1996, in the Russian city of Novokuznetsk, a series of chilling disappearances gripped a quiet neighborhood. Teenage girls vanished, not at night, but in broad daylight. For weeks, no one had answers. Until a repairman stepped into apartment 357 and uncovered one of the most horrifying serial murder cases in Russian history. Throughout the spring and summer of 1996, people began disappearing in Novokuznetsk. Most were girls between the ages of 11 and 15. But it wasn't only girls. A few women and even young boys went missing too. Families searched frantically. Police had no answers. Some suspected the missing teens had run away. Others feared kidnappings for human trafficking, or even organ harvesting. The panic spread, but the disappearances continued. Then, in June, something horrifying surfaced. Along the banks of the Aba River, dismembered human remains began to appear. Arms, legs, torsos. Mostly small, indicating they belonged to children. Forensic analysis confirmed the worst. The bodies had been cut with knives and saws. A killer was loose in Novokuznetsk. On September 24th, 1996, three girls, 13-year-olds Anastasia Barnaeva and Yevgenia Barashkina, and 15-year-old Olga Galtseva went for a walk after visiting a local clinic. The girls had met earlier that autumn while staying in the same hospital room. One afternoon, they decided to visit a nearby store to buy batteries for a portable music player. Outside the store, they encountered an elderly woman, frail, gray-haired, soft-spoken. She asked the girls for help opening her apartment door, saying the lock was broken. In return, she offered them some paper cups for their water. That woman was Lyudmila Spesivtseva. The girls followed her to apartment 357. When they entered the building, Andrei Spesivtsev appeared. He intimidated the girls and forced them inside. Only one of them, Olga, would ever be found alive. Nearly a month later, police discovered her in the apartment, badly mutilated but still breathing. She was rushed to the hospital and managed to give a detailed statement. Despite doctors' efforts, she died on October 27th. Her testimony became the key to unraveling the nightmare. The apartment was across from Novokuznetsk's central square for public events, hiding in plain sight. Andrei Spesivtsev was born March 1st, 1970, at home. His mother, Lyudmila, didn't register his birth for 2 years and never took him to a doctor. He was born underweight, and his mother's overprotection became extreme. He shared her bed until age 12. His father, a heavy drinking minor, was abusive. In 1974, the family moved to apartment 357 in a 9-story building on Pionersky Prospect, the very apartment where the murders would occur. Shortly after moving in, his father left the family and ceased all contact, though never divorced Lyudmila.
Напомню отца алкоголя, которого когда-то я раньше боялся, а теперь ненавижу. Просто у меня раньше ненависти не было. Я не знал, что это такое, что это за чувство. А теперь понял.
Alexander was a sickly child. Frequent nosebleeds, headaches, poor vision, and enuresis. He was coddled and treated as fragile. When he misbehaved, his mother defended him fiercely. In school, he was quiet, avoided socializing, and got the nickname Spec. He tried to win over popular classmates by handing out live ammunition he had somehow acquired. He vandalized elevators, stole newspapers, and tampered with neighbors' locks. He entered elevators purely to vandalize them. Neighbors initially complained to Lyudmila, but she rejected all accusations, and eventually, when pressed, began spitting in their faces. Meanwhile, Alexander progressed from petty theft to more serious crimes. He stole newspapers from broken mailboxes and eventually bicycles left in the stairwells. One day, he was caught breaking into a schoolroom with a lockpick to steal radio components. Once again, his mother intervened to protect him. Lyudmila had a record of theft herself. She was fired from a school janitorial job due to missing supplies like soap and light bulbs. She later became an assistant to a blind lawyer in the local courthouse, a job secured by her daughter Nadia, who worked there as a clerk. At home, Ludmila brought stacks of criminal case files. Gruesome photos and forensic reports fascinated Alexander, who pored over them nightly. This obsession began to replace any interest in work or school. He barely graduated and never pursued higher education. He briefly worked repairing household appliances. In 1988, he attempted to enlist in the army, but was denied for psychiatric reasons and committed to the Novokuznetsk Psychiatric Hospital. After a short stay, he was discharged. In 1991, 21-year-old Spesivtsev began dating 17-year-old Yevgenia Guselnikova. At first, the relationship seemed normal. He was introduced as her fiancé, but soon he became controlling and violent. He beat her severely, sending her to the hospital with a head injury. But that wasn't the end. He followed her into her hospital room and attacked her again. Only the intervention of nurses saved her from further injury. Yevgenia broke off all contact. Spesivtsev had other plans. He lured her to his apartment under false pretenses, intending never to let her go. By then, his mother and sister had moved to a different apartment. Spesivtsev tortured Yevgenia, burning her with a lighter, stabbing her, starving her. Neighbors heard music blasting, drowning out her screams. Her family didn't immediately report her missing, thinking she was still with Alexander. A month later, police broke down the door to apartment 357. Yevgenia's corpse was found in bed. He had slept beside her decomposing body. Cause of death? Sepsis. Spesivtsev claimed she was already sick and died naturally. His mother supported this, even throwing stones at the prosecutor's office in protest. Despite the brutality, he was again sent to a psychiatric hospital instead of prison. In April 1994, psychiatrists declared him in remission and released him. Another evaluation shockingly concluded he had never been schizophrenic. No records were filed, no police were told. Spesivtsev walked free. When police finally began checking psychiatric records, they found no release notice for Alexander Spesivtsev. Officially, he was still listed as a patient. Assuming he remained in psychiatric care, authorities never followed up. In reality, he had been living freely at home with his mother and killing. Around the same time, a wave of child abductions and murders was gripping the city of Tolyatti. Police initially believed the two cases might be connected. Based on witness sketches, investigators identified a suspect, Oleg Rilkov, a known offender, and issued a nationwide alert. His photo was printed in local newspapers and broadcast on regional TV stations, including in Novokuznetsk, in hopes he had traveled to Kemerovo Oblast. This detour in the investigation allowed Spesivtsev to continue unnoticed, as local police pursued a suspect hundreds of kilometers away. By mid-1996, he had killed 15 people. In one case, he lured 7 teens with music. A neighbor complained of smells and noises. She mentioned the stench of death, but police ignored her. He no longer hunted alone. He sent his mother out to lure victims. She was working as a night guard at a kindergarten. In September 1996, she spotted 3 girls shopping for batteries. They had been discharged from a local hospital and were out unsupervised. She asked for help opening her apartment door. The girls agreed. Once inside, Alexander appeared, threatened them, and dragged them inside. Only one, Olga, was later found alive. She died in hospital on October 27, 1996, after giving damning testimony. In the fall of 1996, a neighbor contacted the housing office to complain about a cold radiator. A maintenance crew was dispatched and began routine checks throughout the building. When they knocked on apartment 357, Alexander refused to let them in. He claimed he was mentally ill and locked in by his mother. Suspicious, they notified the local precinct. Police arrived. Alexander repeated the same story, this time adding that he hadn't seen his mother in days. Officers insisted and eventually forced the door open. Inside, they found a nightmare. Dismembered remains, blood-stained sheets, and piles of children's clothing. Jewelry taken from victims. A rotting stench filled the apartment.
Барашкина Жень, сестре, да. Она ушла в этой водолазке, когда она ушла, у нее были месячные. Также она ушла в этих колготках Пятки протерты были.
На одной ноге или на одной?
На двух.
На обоих. Вы опознаете по протертости, да?
Да, и
По
вообще,
размеру?
Да.
Опознаете четко?
Да.
One girl, Olga Galtseva, was still alive but barely. She had been stabbed repeatedly and left for dead. Police rushed her to the hospital. She would live only a few more days, but before dying, she gave a full statement.
Оля, скажи, пожалуйста, кто привел вас в квартиру? При каких обстоятельствах? Как она вас привела? Дверь не может открыть? Она не может, да? И поэтому позвала вас, чтобы помогли? Все еще живы были, все втроем? Настя, то есть, уже была мертва. Что это за девочки, если ты их знаешь?
Это, кажется,
Это кто?
это Барашкина.
Это Барашкина. Женя, точно, да? Это Барашкина. А вот это кто? Это ты? А вот еще вот такие фотографии. Вот это кто? Это он фотографировал? При каких обстоятельствах? Это когда он фотографировал? На второй день? Все еще живы были, все втроем? Настя, то есть, уже была мертва. Ты говорила о том, что это он ей давал куски тела Насти, и она их бросала в суп.
Это на их суп бросала. Она только отдельно варила.
Она отдельно варила.
То она...
Для кого?
Для нас. То суп налила.
Ну, варила это бабушка, да?
Да.
Варила это бабушка.
И для мяса переложила.
И суп налила, и мясо переложила вам в суп.
Да.
Куски расчлененного тела уносили на улицу?
Да, они пришли. Носили закапывали.
Кто?
Бабулька.
Бабулька? Как? В чем она их уносила?
В мешках.
В мешках? Как поберушка такая сумка из мешка, да?
Alexander had escaped through the roof just before the raid, but he returned to the building days later, possibly believing police had left. That's where he was caught. A formal confrontation, a police-arranged face-to-face between Alexander and his mother, Lyudmila, turned into chaos. The so-called cannibal family's lineup became a grotesque spectacle. They screamed at each other. Lyudmila berated Alexander for slandering his own mother and called him shameless. She showed no remorse or horror at the crimes committed in her home, only anger that her son was blaming her.
А я сказала, что я не выносила его.
А ну ты скажи, куда ты выносила?
А я его не выносила. Ну почему ты ко мне всегда вот так вот...
Потому что ты закапывала.
Да я не закапывала, я ее не трогала. Я 4 ведра отвечаю. Я себе уже заработала за 4 ведра.
Вот ты 4 ведра.
Что я 4 ведра не принесла вот сюда.
А ты 4 ведра их бросала, значит. Вот и показывай.
Ну как тебе не стыдно? Ты за что так на меня обозрен? Бессовестный ты.
Я не обозрен.
Ты мне так говорил, что я тебя посажу вместе с Надькой. За что? Я их не трогала. Бессовестный ты.
Я убивал.
Бессовестный ты, да.
Я не спорю.
Ты мне заставил эти 4 ведра мыть для того, чтобы это все сравнять, да? Бессовестный ты.
Later investigation proved that he had told the truth. While Alexander tortured and murdered the victims, it was Lyudmila who lured children into the apartment and then helped dispose of their remains. His sister Nadezhda was allegedly aware of the crimes but was not charged. Spesivtsev confessed to 19 murders. Only a few were formally prosecuted due to lack of DNA funding. Authorities scrambled to convict him before his pretrial detention expired. He was sentenced in 1997, 10 years for 3 murders. In 1998, another evaluation reversed earlier findings. He was ruled insane and sent to the high-security psychiatric hospital in Oriol, where he remains. In 2024, a regional court confirmed his responsibility for 15 additional murders. His mother, Lyudmila, was sentenced to 13 years. She was released in 2008 and reportedly moved in with her daughter Nadezhda. Apartment 357 remains sealed. the debts unpaid, and the city of Novokuznetsk forever haunted by the horrors within its walls.